If you've ever, had that really frustrating swelling, that feeling of just general inflammation, maybe look down at your legs and seen that sort of orange peel skin, well, the first thing you think is, how do I get rid of this liquid fast?
Hmm.
We see ads everywhere, right? For quick fixes, diuretics, specialties, pills promising miracles. But what if that swelling, the thing we see, isn't actually the main problem? What if it's more like a signal? We've gathered some sources that really go deep into the physiology here, and they show that fluid retention, it's complicated. It's often a sign of deeper things going on, multifactorial issues.
That's right.
So our mission today is to kind of skip past those temporary Band-Aids and really dig into the roots, hormonal, metabolic, inflammatory roots, so you can find changes that actually stick. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, the first thing that jumps out from all this material is exactly that. It is a multifactorial process. Definitely not just, simple plumbing. Your hormonal balance is involved, your nervous system, the lymphatic system's ability to drain, and of course the big detox organs,
Yeah.
your liver and your kidneys. They're all in the mix.
Okay.
And because it's so complex, we really have to start with a clear warning. Relying only on those quick fixes, like chemical diuretics from the pharmacy, or even really strong herbal ones, it's just counterproductive.
Right.
Sure, you get temporary relief, maybe, but you're potentially stressing your kidneys, messing up your essential mineral balance like potassium and sodium, and you almost guarantee a rebound.
Hmm.
All that fluid just rushes back in like 48 to 72 hours.
The rebound, yeah.
Exactly. So the focus needs to be on, let's say, remodeling the systems underneath, not just trying to drain the sink quickly.
That makes total sense. Remodeling, not just draining. And I guess the first step in remodeling is realizing this looks really different between men and women, biologically speaking. The sources point out that men generally, they retain less fluid. They don't experience as much of that visible inflammation we're talking about. And apparently that's largely down to testosterone being more dominant in their hormonal picture.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the male side, what's going on with the female hormonal profile? That's where it gets really interesting, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
When we look at the typical female hormonal blueprint, there's often, relatively speaking, an overabundance of estrogen and progesterone compared to testosterone.
Yeah.
And estrogen, well, that's the key player for fluid retention. It actually encourages the body to hold on to more liquid, specifically by increasing the volume of plasma liquid in the bloodstream itself.
Ah, okay.
And this extra liquid then causes swelling or edema, but it tends to happen in a specific place, the extracellular matrix. That's the space between your cells, kind of just under the skin in the dermis layer. That's why you often see it concentrating in the thighs, the lower legs, leading to that look cellulite, maybe even little nodules. So it's not just more fluid, it's where the body tends to put it.
And I suppose that hormonal profile ties into the actual plumbing, too, the vascular system.
Precisely. Lower testosterone levels in women mean there's less natural tendency to build up lots of muscle mass. And muscle mass is important for good vascular tone, especially in the legs. Less muscle means the veins might have poorer tone. They can dilate more easily, especially when it's hot, like in summer. And when they dilate, liquid can sort of leak out into that extracellular matrix, causing the swelling, that heavy leg feeling.
Wow, okay.
And you see this play out every month, cyclically, with premenstrual syndrome, or PMS. In those 5-6 days before menstruation starts, many women notice weight gain. That's mostly fluid accumulating.
Right, I've heard that.
It's an internal thing, driven by natural hormone shifts, like a temporary drop in estrogen, which affects how well the body can get rid of water through urination. Just understanding that cycle can stop you from panicking when the scale jumps up for a few days each month.
That context is so helpful. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Beyond the gender differences, let's talk metabolic causes. This stuff seems to affect almost everyone these days living modern lives. The sources definitely connect fluid retention to chronic low-grade inflammation, which honestly sounds like an epidemic, especially for people over, say, 35 or 40.
It really is widespread, and we're talking conditions like metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance. These are rampant, and they are absolutely tangled up in this inflammatory fluid cycle.
So how does that work on a cellular level, inflammation causing water retention?
Well, when you have chronic inflammation, especially if it comes with hyperinsulinemia, that just means too much insulin floating around, that combination directly tells your body, particularly your kidneys, to hold on to more sodium. And wherever sodium goes, water follows. So boom, you get more liquid retention pretty much everywhere in the organism. And this whole metabolic mess, it often goes hand in hand with gaining visceral fat, the dangerous fat around your organs, maybe having high uric acid levels, and a liver that's just struggling. It's sluggish. And this inflammatory background is often where other conditions like chronic fatigue or even autoimmune issues seem to thrive.
Okay. And we can't talk inflammation in modern life without talking about the biggest player,
Yeah.
stress, and specifically cortisol. You know, the 60-hour work weeks, maybe intense training schedules, not enough sleep, constant pressure.
hmm
Our adrenal glands are just pumping out cortisol constantly. It's supposed to be the anti-inflammatory hormone, right?
And
For
there's
survival.
exactly. But the irony here is huge. While cortisol is meant to help in the short term, when it's chronically high, one of its major side effects is that it actually causes edema. It causes swelling. Think about the classic clinical picture. Someone gets corticosteroid injections, maybe for joint pain. What happens? They often swell up quite noticeably in just a few days. That's cortisol's water-retaining effect right there.
Wow. Okay, wait. There's something deeper here, though, isn't there? Something about the body kind of eating itself under stress.
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
This leads to what we can call a vicious metabolic cycle. Cortisol is, the technical term is myoglucogenic.
Okay. Sounds scary.
It just means that when your body thinks it's in survival mode, cortisol forces it to break down protein from your muscles, literally taking amino acids from your muscle tissue and convert them into glucose for quick energy.
Oh, wow.
So you end up losing precious muscle mass. And losing muscle mass, well, that immediately makes you more insulin resistant, which worsens your overall metabolic function, cranks up inflammation even more, and just speeds up that whole negative cycle of fluid retention.
So we're essentially burning down our best defense, our muscle, just to feed the fire of stress and inflammation.
You've got it. And that brings us to that really surprising anecdote you sometimes hear, that the sources mention the vacation effect. Why do so many people who struggle with puffiness at home suddenly drop, 3 or 4 kilograms, maybe 6 or 8 pounds when they go on vacation, even if their diet isn't perfect?
Yeah, why is that?
Because they're finally sleeping, they're relaxing, they're reducing that chronic stress load. When you lower that cortisol tap, the body can finally, naturally drain away all that accumulated edema and inflammatory fluid.
That's incredible. Okay, so if the fluid retention is the symptom of an overwhelmed metabolism, the answer isn't just draining, like you said. It's about improving the body's internal cleanup crew, its self-cleaning system. Which brings us to this word, autophagy. How should we think about that?
Autophagy literally means self-eating, but think of it as self-cleaning. It's the body's amazing built-in ability to get rid of metabolic junk things like old damaged proteins, lactic acid after exercise, uric acid, and also to remodel cellular parts like membranes. If you want to lose that inflammatory liquid for good, you need to encourage this process.
Okay, makes sense. So how do we turn up the autophagy dial? What are the tools?
Well, the sources point to 2 main tools. First one is intermittent fasting, or awaya. Autophagy really starts to ramp up after about 12 hours since your last bite of food. If you can extend that fasting window maybe to 14, 16, 20 hours, some people even do 24 or 36, occasionally you really promote serious detoxification. It activates something called the AMPK pathway.
AMPK.
Yeah, think of AMPK as the body's master switch for burning stored energy. So
Yeah.
fasting helps you tap into stored fat, especially that visceral fat around the liver. It even helps solubilize things like excess estrogen, which can help with hormonal balance too.
Okay, fasting is tool number 1. What's number 2?
Tool number 2 is high-intensity exercise. We're talking about exercise that really gets your heart rate up, gets your sympathetic nervous system going, adrenaline, dopamine release. And if you do this kind of exercise while you're still in that fasted state from IF, you accelerate autophagy even more. Plus, this intense activity actually helps remodel your cell membranes.
Remodel cell membranes. Why is that important for fluid retention?
Because healthy, flexible cell membranes are crucial. This remodeling allows your cells to properly incorporate important fatty acids, like DHA, that's the omega-3 fat you get from fish oil or fatty fish. When DHA gets into the cell membrane, it makes your insulin receptors work better. They become more flexible, more sensitive. And better insulin sensitivity directly translates to less inflammation body-wide. Less inflammation means less of that associated fluid.
Better cells, less inflammation, less fluid.
Got it. Okay, we absolutely need to talk about something that trips people up all the time when they start dieting, especially low carb. That thing where you lose like 5 pounds overnight, feel amazing, then you have one slice of pizza and suddenly 2 pounds are back the next morning. It feels like total failure.
Oh yeah, the yo-yo. It's classic. But it's not failure, it's just physiology.
So what's going on there? The sources mention this glycogen rule. What's that about?
This rule is honestly essential knowledge if you want to avoid getting totally demoralized when dieting.
Yeah.
So, carbohydrates, when you eat them, get stored primarily as glycogen in your liver and your muscles. Here's the crucial bit. For every single molecule of glucose that gets stored as glycogen in your muscles, your body tucks away 3 to 4 molecules of water right alongside it.
Wow, 3 to 4 times the water. Yep. So think about the start of a diet, especially if you cut carbs drastically. The first, say, 72 hours. Your body burns through those stored glycogen reserves pretty quickly. And as that glycogen gets used up, all that water that was attached to it, it gets released. That's your rapid initial weight loss. 2, 3, maybe even 5 kilos gone in just 3 days. Feels like magic, but it's mostly water.
Okay, that explains the drop. What about the dreaded rebound, the pizza effect?
Right. The rebound happens when you suddenly reintroduce a big load of carbs, the pizza, maybe a big bowl of pasta, popcorn at the movies. Your muscles are like, yes, glucose. They're primed to restock. So they rapidly suck up those glucose molecules, convert them back into glycogen, and all that water comes rushing right back in with it.
Yep.
Instantly. You can see the scale jump up 2 kilos, maybe 4 pounds, within 24 to 36 hours.
So mentally, we need to forgive ourselves for last night's pizza because it's mainly just water coming back, not actual fat gain overnight.
Exactly. If you understand the mechanism, you realize it's not fat sabotage. It's just your body refilling its water tanks according to basic physiological rules. It's temporary.
That is genuinely empowering to know. Okay, finally, let's touch on supplements. But remembering the philosophy here, supplements are just the tiny tip of the iceberg, right?
Absolutely. They only really become useful or more useful once the big things are in place. Your diet, your movement habits, getting enough rest, managing stress, those are the foundations.
And we need to repeat that warning about diuretics.
Yes, please. Chemical diuretics are serious medications. Avoid them completely unless a doctor has specifically prescribed them for a diagnosed condition like serious heart failure or uncontrolled high blood pressure. They should never be used just for vanity reasons, trying to look leaner for an event or squeeze into something. The risks just aren't worth it.
Okay, so assuming the foundation is solid, what kind of targeted natural support can actually help nudge things in the right direction with fluid balance and detoxification? Where do we start?
We'll start with the absolute basics. Mineral balance. We really need to focus on potassium, calcium, and magnesium. Potassium is particularly key because it works kind of opposite to sodium. Getting enough potassium helps your body let go of excess sodium and therefore the water that sodium was holding onto. It helps balance the body's internal fluid pumps.
Makes sense. Basic minerals first. What else?
We can also think about water-soluble vitamins, things like a good B complex and vitamin C complex. They often play a supportive role in healthy diuresis, just helping the cavities do their job efficiently.
Okay. Now, if we want to give the liver a little extra support, maybe help that autophagy process along, what about plant-based helpers, phytotherapy?
Yeah, there are some traditional players here. Milk thistle, its Latin name is Cardamariano, and dandelion, or diente de leon, are both well known for supporting liver function and helping with overall liquid elimination. And green tea extract is interesting too because it seems to help activate that AMPK pathway we mentioned earlier, which supports metabolism.
Right, AMPK, the energy burning switch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, for women specifically, who often deal with that poor vascular tone issue in the legs, polyphenols can be really beneficial.
Polyphenols, like from what?
Things like horse chestnut, castaño de Indias, extracts from red berries, or resveratrol, often from grapes. These compounds can actually help increase the tone in the tiny valves within the leg veins. Tighter valves mean less leakage of fluid out into the tissues. So these can be especially helpful during hot weather or in that premenstrual phase when things tend to swell more.
That's very targeted. Okay, and finally, let's loop back to maybe the biggest root cause we discussed. Stress and the nervous system. How can supplements help regulate that to reduce stress-related fluid?
This is where adaptogens come in. These are herbs that help your body adapt to stress and find balance, helping to recover natural biorhythms. Ashwagandha is a great example, often used during the day to help stabilize the stress response. And then you might combine that with the nighttime complex to support rest and recovery. Something with melatonin and maybe GABA.
GABA. What's GABA?
GABA, that's gamma-aminobutyric acid, is the main calming neurotransmitter in your brain. It helps quiet down the nervous system, which is crucial for getting deep restorative sleep. So by using adaptogens, things like GABA and melatonin, you're working to regulate that whole nervous system cycle, aiming to lower that chronic cortisol output and hopefully break the cycle of inflammation and fluid retention it causes. Okay. And one more category, something about insulin. Right. Since we established that this whole meta-inflammation thing, the link between metabolism and inflammation is such a huge driver. Anything that helps improve your body's insulin sensitivity can indirectly help reduce inflammation and fluid. Supplements like berberine, alpha-lipoic acid, ALA, even simple cinnamon powder have research supporting their role here. And of course, if someone has been clearly diagnosed with insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes, their doctor might discuss prescription options like metformin, but that's always a medical conversation.
Wow. Okay, so we started just looking at, frustrating puffiness, visible swelling, and we've journeyed through hormones, stress, that vicious metabolic cycle, cellular cleanup, water physics, and now some really targeted tools. I think the big takeaway is that fluid retention, it's not really a flaw. It's more like a complex signal, a signpost pointing to deeper imbalances, metabolic, hormonal, inflammatory.
Mm,
So the central idea holds that visible fluid is the symptom. It's not the core problem itself. If we only focus on getting rid of the liquid, we kind of lose sight of the real goal, which is remodeling those root causes.
exactly. And if we zoom out one last time, we land back on that concept of meta-inflammation, that profound connection between your metabolic system, how you handle energy, your endocrine system, hormones, and your immune system, inflammation. They are so deeply intertwined, which means that every smart step you take, whether it's trying intermittent fasting, doing some high-intensity workouts, managing stress better, every step you take to improve your insulin sensitivity, it's also going to boost your immune function and help dial down that inflammation-driven fluid retention.
Yeah, all work together.
They absolutely do, which, really brings up an important question for everyone listening. If your body is holding on to fluid, if it's sending you that clear signal of underlying stress and imbalance, what's maybe the single biggest lifestyle change you could realistically make starting today? Not a supplement, not a quick fix, one fundamental shift in your daily life that could significantly lower your cortisol and finally help break that cycle of meta-inflammation.